Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.
This is St. Louis on the Air from St. Louis Public Radio. I'm Elaine Cha. Anyone who has lost a family member, friend, or even a beloved pet knows that grief is complex. While some days can feel lighter and quote-unquote normal, others are weighed down by the painful reality that someone beloved is no longer present as they were before. And social media, which some have called life's highlight reel, can make grieving seem like an experience with a timestamp or something to be remedied with a hack. Healing after loss can get easier over time, yet grieving is a lifelong process. That reality is something that St. Louis content creator Kate Granger aims to illuminate in her TikTok series, Let's Not Rot. Started over a year ago, the series was born of Granger's need to be open about her struggles with grief after the traumatic loss of her mother, Bobette, who was killed by Granger's dad and Bobette's former partner. Now at more than 250 videos and counting, Let's Not Rot has been a space for Granger to be candid about her day-to-day coexisting with grief. It's also become a safe haven for viewers navigating their own trials and a space for community where they feel seen and validated in their own experiences. And joining me now to talk about documenting her grief on social media, we have Kate Granger. Kate, welcome to St. Louis on the Air.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So you started Let's Not Rot, as we said in the intro, just over a year ago, and that was March of 2023. But you were creating TikTok videos before that point. How is it, though, that Let's Not Rot, the series, came about? And why did you decide to share trauma and grief, which is so personal, on such a public platform?
Yeah, I think I was doing a lot of lifestyle content. And I would tease my story a little bit and kind of make a joke or kind of land in the dark humor space a little bit, just kind of almost see how my story was going to land with the public, because there was a part of me that's like, I need to share my story. I will not feel purpose until I share my story. So when that series was born, it was kind of out of a place of desperation because the lifestyle content was not fulfilling for me. I knew I wanted to share, but I didn't know how to.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any apprehensions about being that open, that the series wouldn't be well received, especially because of what you had been posting before?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, in talking about trauma and grief, it can be a very fragile topic. And a lot of times for some people, it is something that they don't even want to think about, they don't want to face. For other people, it's something that, is how they live and breathe. And so I knew that my content was going to land with both sides of those people, and I didn't know exactly what the overall response would be. And obviously, posting anything on the internet is an opportunity just to get criticism or kind of, pull your boots up, with the straps and move on and stop wasting your life or stop mourning. And it's just there was a lot of vulnerabilities that I opened myself up to. So yes, there was a lot of hesitation, but it wasn't more important than actually just sharing my story and being able to connect with other people.
Mm-hmm. So Let's Not Rot, that phrase, what exactly does it mean, Kate, and where did it come from?
Yeah, so I lost my mom in December of 2019, and now 3 years later was when I started this series. And the only way I could describe the way I was living was rotting. I, would wake up and I would go throughout my day, go through the motions, was not having any sense of joy at all. I was just living, and then in the moments in between, I was just rotting and not doing anything that made me feel alive. And so that's kind of where that word really resonated with me. And as I started thinking about, okay, what do I do to get out of this? Because I don't want to live like this forever. And I know that's what my mom would want for me. She'd want me to move on and to live a life of purpose for me and for her. Mm-hmm. And so at that point, that's when I was like, okay, this word rot is really what I feel like describes my experience so well. So I'm just going to say, let's not rot, because let's not do that and let's live instead.
Yeah. What has the reception to your content been like?
It's been amazing, like truly amazing. I mean, obviously you're going to get the comments that are like, this is stupid. But overall, it's been a point of connection for people. I've met and I've, seen so many people in public that have come up to me and have been like, oh my gosh, like your content means the world to me. I've had countless DMs saying that my content has, validated areas of someone's life who have never been validated. And I've had some that are like, your content saved my life. And it's just like, it's been absolutely crazy to think that just, talking and being vulnerable on the internet can be so meaningful across the world. I've got people in Australia and the UK and Europe, and it's just like really, really crazy just how widespread this has landed.
Yeah. So we've talked about this series. We're going to get into it a little bit more, but let's listen to one of the voiceovers for the video that you posted around a month into the series and over a year ago today, on March 3rd of 2023.
It's been 3 years since my mom was murdered by my dad, and the grief has been brutal. So welcome to day 28 of Let's Not Rot, where I make small choices each day to not rot away the life I've been given because she would be pissed if I did. I wish I was not resilient, but I've had no other choice. I mourn that I was dealt a hand that requires profound strength to survive. I am simultaneously proud of my ability to bear the rapid erosion of peace and pissed that I have no other option but to endure it. My threshold for defeat is high, but my strength is exhausting and I feel myself fading after every hit. I dream a little smaller each time and I default towards pessimism as I await the next blow. I can't help but start to believe that my purpose is to take a beating from life until one day it overcomes me. But today I am choosing to consider that it will all make sense one day. It feels risky, but I'm starting to feel hope as this Let's Not Rot community slowly builds. So today I made an espresso tonic, applied my press-on nails, and watched Love is Blind. Small things lead to bigger things, my friends, so let's not rot.
And that was Kate Granger's video series, vlog series on TikTok called Let's Not Rot. So day 27 is when that video posted, and you end each of the videos in the series with, small things lead to bigger things. What small things came about on day 28, Kate, and thereafter?
Literally the smallest things. Sometimes it was just, going for a walk and that making me feel like I did something of value. Or like I said in that video, like I made an espresso tonic. I made myself coffee. I did something for myself that was good. And that was not, sitting at home and rotting. And I put on my press-on nails, and that's something that required me to do something small. Mm-hmm. But in the grand scheme of things, those little moments are me choosing myself and me choosing ways to just live life, even if it seems like it's really insignificant.
Mm-hmm. And is that something specifically that folks were responding to in comments posted to that video as well as others?
Yes, absolutely. I think being able to call out the fact that small things are valuable. A lot of people are like, oh, well, you're not doing the big things like getting a new job or, getting a new relationship. It's just the small things really do add up. Mm-hmm. And being able to vocalize that and have people connect with that and feel validated in the sense that they don't have to have these big grand gestures of healing. They can just do the simple small things every day, I think was so validating for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And what bigger things did it lead to?
I have a book deal now, which I am really excited about. Mm-hmm. I feel 1,000 times more alive. I feel amazing. I feel like I'm doing something of purpose. I feel like I'm moving towards actual healing. Mm-hmm. And that all happened because I was making an espresso tonic and I was putting on those press-on nails. And taking care of myself in that time has allowed me to grow into this healing space that I'm now entering.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that did strike me about your video series is that they showcase, very everyday, relatable moments in life. But you're pairing those with mundane snapshots and deeply vulnerable spoken word poetry. So you've just mentioned the book deal. What was the thought process between presenting the series in that way, where you have words in the form of poetry specifically, paired with these images, and then addressing the audience straight to camera. Like that's not the thing that you've done, which may be something that could be considered more personal. Why have you decided to sort of approach the format the way that you have?
I think a lot of it comes from the sense that, I grew up in a household where my words were invalidated and my words were dangerous. And so a lot of my ability to communicate and to process has always been through writing. And so when I thought about creating this series and finding a way to kind of express myself and share my story, the only way I felt comfortable with was writing these voiceovers and these poems. And so for me, that was the safest way for me to kind of put it all together. And I'm not just going to sit there and read something to you. I was like, well, I might as well show these small tasks that I am doing, because I am highlighting the fact that these small little things every day will add up. And so I think it was kind of the balance of, I don't know how to necessarily communicate everything that I'm feeling without the words and without the writing, and then also still pairing something that, was visually kind of relatable to other people.
Mm-hmm. You have support on social media, clearly, but how has that affected Caitlin in real life? You're not on the screen. So have you been able to open yourself up a little bit more about the things that you're struggling with offline as a result of what you've been doing with Let's Not Rot online?
Yeah, absolutely. I've made several friendships where it started with hey, I saw your videos on TikTok, and it, became a really meaningful friendship. There's a bunch of baristas at this coffee shop that I go to all the time, and they called me out one time. They're like, hey, I think we saw you on TikTok. And I was like, you did.
Yeah.
And now we're really good friends, and they have supported me through my stuff, and I have supported them through their stuff. And it's just been a very beautiful relationship. So choosing to be vulnerable, with the world has also been, locally something that there are a lot of people in St. Louis who see my content, and there are people that come up to me and want to have these relationships with me. And it's been really, really meaningful to have, sometimes it's weird putting basically a lot of my emotions out on the internet and people knowing a lot about me and me not knowing a lot about them. But that's been a really good tool for people to feel comfortable to have a friendship with me and to trust me with their stuff, because they know that I have stuff too, mm-hmm. which I think is a big thing too when it comes to relationships, is having that mutual vulnerability.
We're speaking with Kate Granger, a St. Louisan content creator and poet. Kate's video series, Let's Not Rot, documents her journey of grief and healing from the loss of her mother, Bobette, who was killed by her estranged husband. So speaking of connecting, I understand that you were able to connect with someone who was related to Jean Kuchka, who was the teacher who died in the shooting at CVPA High School in the fall of 2022. Tell me a little bit about what it was like to connect with somebody who had also had the shared experience of losing someone in a very public way.
Yeah, I think it was really special to have that connection, because obviously having something so public happen is different than, us having our own grief that's quiet and kind of hidden at our own homes. And so being able to connect with her, she reached out and just sent me a little message saying, hey, I'm related to, Jean, and this is what happened. And I just really feel like no one else is going to understand besides you. And so at that point, we started to have a conversation about what it is like to have this very public grief and what the expectations are of how you show up for the grief and for the public, and what you share and what you don't share, and how that looks and how it just feels different than maybe your typical grieving. And it's just been very special to have, even for me in my own personal healing, is like being able to have her as a resource, because I'm not the only one that knows about grief. She does too. And so us being able to have that communication and have that relationship has just been really, really meaningful, and has really helped me understand a little bit more of grief, because I got to learn from her as well.
Now that you have made these videos for over a year, when you look back at the content that you made at different points in time, what is it that you notice now? Maybe that's a little bit different. Is there anything about what you see in videos that you made in the past and what you are now putting together in this moment?
Yeah, even just a couple of days ago, I went back to day one and I watched myself, and like the second sentence I said was, "I don't think I'll ever be okay." And I don't believe that anymore. I do believe that I'm going to be okay. And that would have never been the case if I hadn't, gone through this journey. And so being able to look at where I was and when I started this and hearing, just this like mournful tone to my voice, and now being able to like kind of transfer that into more meaningful content and being able to create more of a community that's based on just grief in general and not necessarily about me and my emotions, but about how do we as humans handle grief. And it's just really kind of evolved from me being, in this really depressed state to this is something that is very important to so many different people in so many different ways. And I feel that in my soul, and I just feel lighter.
What is it that you've learned about yourself, Kate, and living with grief since you started this series?
I think a lot of my experiences of grief were rooted in shame. I felt insecure about my story. I felt shame that I wasn't okay because, all the self-help stuff tells you, do this and you'll be good. And that's just not how it goes. And so I think because I was feeling it so intensely and for so long that I was just like, what is wrong with me? What is inherently wrong with me that I cannot just move on? And so I think for me, doing this has really allowed me to understand that there are so many different ways to grieve, and being able to just be honest with myself and not shame myself and just give myself the space to grow and heal along the way, I think has been revolutionary.
Yeah. What is it that your audience has taught you about grieving and healing? Is there maybe one story that someone has shared in the comments or something that someone has said that really stands out as being a moment of learning for you?
Yeah, I think of this specific comment that said something along the lines of, I have never felt understood until I listened to your content. And just seeing that is the power of vulnerability. And, sharing our stories is how other people also feel validated in their stuff. And so that's really what I've learned is, when I started this, vulnerability was really scary, but it's something that I felt like I had to do or else I wasn't going to survive. And now I know that I kind of coined a little phrase of you cannot hide and heal. You have to heal in a sense of community with people who are being vulnerable together. And so having that kind of unravel in front of me live was just like, this is how it goes. This is life. And just being able to learn that from the way other people have communicated with my content has been amazing.
And you've mentioned that you have this book deal. Is it specific to Let's Not Rot, or are there other things that you have planned for the future that are specifically related to this series?
Yeah, so the book that I'm working on is going to be a poetry book. So a lot of it are some of the poems that were in all of these Let's Not Rot scripts. I've had a lot of people say, please just write this down so I can have it and print it out and read it all the time over and over and over again. And so there's going to be some of that. There's going to be some new poems that are more just like processing some emotions, and some that are just kind of like crazy because that's grief. And I think my idea behind it is not to put together this, perfect little book of things, but for it just be messy because that's grief and that's real life. And so that's the plan for that. I also am thinking about starting a podcast that would be called Let's Not Rot. And it would be less about me, but more about bringing on other people who have connected with what Let's Not Rot is and being able to, amplify their voices, because it's not just about me, it's about the community, and it's about what we all can do for just the education of grief and the support of each other down the road.
So the final question here, the videos in your series, they begin with the same refrain, and that is, welcome to day blank of Let's Not Rot, where I make small choices each day to not rot away the life I've been given because my mom would be pissed if I did. What do you think your mom, Babette, would be the absolute opposite of pissed about as she looks at where you are now?
Oh, good question. I think that she would just be really proud because we fought a battle together. And, you know, she knew that she wasn't going to make it out. She knew that I was. And so me having the opportunity to continue that for her and to share about her life and who she was and be able to share the story that I know she wanted to. She was in the process of outlining a book that she wanted to write. And so I now feel like I have this incredible opportunity to finish what she started and honor her, and just share about who she was, because she was amazing. And anybody who ever met her would tell you that. I think she'd be very, very proud and very, very happy. And I think all of this is because of her.
Do you have plans for a cover for this book of poetry that incorporates your mother's image, or a photo of her maybe?
It's part of the plan. Yeah, I haven't gotten that far, but I definitely, I want her to be the main part of this, because at the end of the day, this is all about her. And I also would love to write a memoir down the road about her and I and our story, and just kind of highlight what it was like, and who she was.
Mm. Kate, thank you so much for talking with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
This episode was produced by Roche Hemmings.
Audio engineering and podcast design by Aaron Dorr.
Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations. And leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thanks.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.
The Gateway brings you the day's news each weekday from around the St. Louis region and the state capitals in Jefferson City.
Our schools are accredited. We don't need this bill.
And Springfield.
How many more years must pass before lawmakers see time is of the essence?
I'm Abby Larico. Join me each weekday for The Gateway on the STLPR app or wherever you get podcasts.